Recently, I was placed in a position where poor health was a possibility, and that led to a moment of causing depression, lack of motivation, and hopelessness. When one is ill and their physical strength is weak, a person may experience depression, severe sadness which influences functioning. This sadness is a form of hopelessness because one's circumstances seem unbearable, overwhelming, overbearing, and overpowering. The circumstance is like a figurative monster, ready to consume the person, leaving the person feeling outmatched to go to battle with such a beast. Up close, the circumstance, now we'll call it, let's say, a monster, is in one's face, invading one's personal space, leaving one uncomfortable, unable to see anything other than this large, obnoxious problem. Since this obnoxious obstacle is obstructing one's view and provoking one's security, a person can feel defeated, deflated, alone, and unsupported.
Don't let your arch back down towards the floor. And then I want you to hold this for, about 20 to 30 seconds for a beginner. As possible. I'm looking for a straight line from your shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, all the way down. That means you've got to keep your stomach engaged. I want you to keep your belly button sucked in if you can. And I want to keep your back flat.
In this instance, it's understandable a person is riddled with fear, filled with and often thoroughly weakened by something undesirable. An unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. Both feelings are sensitive and vulnerable positions to be in. The body is bounded with weakness one does not desire to experience. Exposure to anything which instigates and torments someone of even a hint of fatality can result in hopelessness. How can one fight without their might, without their physical strength?
A little bit more of an advanced option, you can add planks with a march. And so what we're going to do is basically just take away one point in our base of stability, causes those core muscles to work a little harder. You're going to alternate marching your left foot and then your right foot, right foot, all the while maintaining that nice tight core position, that nice straight plank position. So again, about 10 marches is what we're at.
In my previous short, we talked about reassigning one's strength. Instead of relying on their physical strength, rely on their mental and spiritual strength. The fight may be unavailable physically, but medically the brain is the determination of life. For example, brain dead is the primary determination of life and death. Therefore, by measure of figurative weight, how strong is one's mental and spiritual strength? Does it outmatch one's physical strength? Breathe steady. As my son's cartoon says, respira, respira. Take a moment to mentally separate from the situation to regain composure and focus.
Exercise number 3 is going to be some side planks. We're going to hit the obliques a little bit harder with this one. Also a great way to kick on those lumbar stabilizers that we mentioned earlier. What you're going to do is get down into a side plank position, so on the outside of your right foot and over on your right elbow. And on this one, what I'm looking for is a straight line, nose, belly button, between the knees, kind of all the way down that way. You don't want your hip to be too high, you don't want your hip to be too low. Stabilization and isolation is the name of the game on this one. Same thing with kind of the beginner intermediate straight plank that I showed you earlier. About a 20 to 30 second hold would be great for beginners on this one. Now if you need a little bit more of this exercise, we're going to get into a side plank with a hip dip. So what that looks like, you're still down in that same side plank position. Now we're just going to add a little bit more of a dynamic movement to it. You're going to push your hips up towards the ceiling, and then nice and slow you're going to drop your hips all the way down towards the floor, push them back up towards the ceiling, drop them back down towards the floor. Each time you do that counts as 1 rep. What I tell people is to shoot for about 10 reps on the right, and then you're going to roll over, and then you're going to do 10 reps on the left.
Remember, a person is not alone despite what or who a person believes they don't have. There are healthy people, services, and things there to provide help. Seek and articulate. Help is needed. There is a higher power that works for all and greater good. So this circumstance or monster does not define a person's existence. In life, there is beauty in pain. Enjoy beauty and don't take beauty for granted. When in pain, go through the pain. Breathe, rest, ask for help and support. Keep trusting. Pain doesn't last and this will pass.
Your left leg goes straight back behind you. You're going to hold that position for a couple of seconds, come back down to the starting position, and then alternate. So now left arm is going to reach forward while the right leg kicks back, hold for a couple seconds, and then come back down. Right arm, left leg, and then left arm, right leg. And then you're going to alternate that series. I love this exercise because we work a little bit of some what we call reciprocal muscle activation. You're reaching forward with that left hand as that right leg is kicking back behind you. Works those stabilizers a little harder to prevent any rotation motion in your spine. It doesn't feel like much, but this is really a great exercise to target and isolate those smaller lumbar stabilizer groups. And so you're going to shoot for about 10 reps on each side, so count about 20 total. And then you're going to do that 3 times.
Ever heard the saying, heaven's on earth? Well, heaven is the home to those with hope and faith, and heaven belongs to these believers, and there is eternal paradise in this belief. Knowing heaven is home is knowing God is then with one, and then one is not alone.
Step is the same. You reach forward with that right arm, the left leg goes straight back behind you, but now rather than coming back down to a neutral position, you're actually going to tap your elbow and then extend back out into that same bird dog position. Reach back in, tap the elbow, extend back out into that bird dog position. And so it's a little bit more of an endurance activity as we're just working on one side. You're going to shoot for about 10 of those elbow taps in a row, but then we also kick on some of the trunk flexors with this one. We actually activate some ab groups as we get down into that cross crunch position. Shoot for 10 touches on the right side and then shoot for 10 touches on the left side and repeat that 3 times. That's your more advanced version of that bird dog exercise. Our last exercise is going to be some side lying.
Knowing God is with us is knowing He is one's weapon. He's one's protector. He's one's shield, advocate, vindicator, and one's strength. Where one is weak, He is one's strength, and one can rely on Him to fight the battle against the circumstance or the monster.
If you're looking for a little bit more advanced version of the bird dog, we're going to do some bird dogs with some elbow taps. And so get down into that same position, so you're down on
In a position of weakness, a person is incapable to control and left with surrendering. It's then a person can decide what to surrender to, whether they surrender to trust, hope, faith, heaven is home, God is with one, or plainly surrendering to the circumstance.
Activation. The Russian twist is one of the few exercises that includes a rotational component. You can do it with your legs on the ground, which is more of a beginner version. If you raise your legs off the ground, it gets harder in terms of strength and coordination. Another way to increase the difficulty of this exercise is to lean more backwards and with that increase the lever. Avoid only moving your arms from one side to the other. Instead, rotate your whole upper body from left to right.
Surrendering to the monster is to surrender to dwell in a place of misery. Surrendering to trust, hope, faith, heaven is home, and God is to dwell in a place of peace.
Pressing that lower back into the ground and really focusing on engaging the lower abs. Do not let that lower back come off the ground. If you need to bring your legs a little bit higher to press it into the ground, do that.
In this instance, one must decide which particular home should one dwell? The one that brings peace and support, or the one that brings misery?
And to the side. All right, we're going back into our...
When taking a moment to separate from the circumstance mentally and spiritually, separating provides the opportunity to decide on selecting to dwell with the one that brings peace and support or the one that brings misery.
Knees come across and to the side. Try to touch your knee to both of your arms. 15 more seconds and then we're going to take a 30-second rest. Don't stop. Keep that booty down.
Separating also repositions one at a different angle from the circumstance or the monster. Repositioning helps reduce intensity and provides opportunity to critically think and manage the situation. In summary, take a moment and breathe steady again. Be aware of one's heightened emotions and feelings. Awareness of these feelings is awareness one is not themselves. One is particularly vulnerable and sensitive to all stimulation, which is impairing one's judgment and functioning. Basically, seize an opportunity to retreat from the circumstance to regain composure. Decide where one rather dwell mentally, in misery or peace. Understand thoughts approaching with disturbing ideas is to dwell in misery. Thoughts approaching with hope, faith, support, help, maturity, grace is to dwell in peace. Evidently, selecting either to dwell in peace or selecting either to dwell in misery is a choice. It takes obedience and discipline to focus on choosing to dwell in peace.
And your leg out a little bit further each time, really challenging yourself. Just 2 more.
Once deciding to embark on a path and thought process for peace is an opportunity to indulge in the place where you can recuperate, to fight for your life, to survive, and to thrive, and to exist.
Do it. 2 and 1. Exhale.